Have you ever been around someone who has a strong narcissistic bent and that person comes across as very self confident? In fact, sometimes to the point of arrogance and certainly superior. And yet, as you leave that person's presence, you kind of have this sense that says something's not right there. They can come across as if they're okay with themselves, but the fact that they have to have this overbearing manner says down at the base they're not nearly as secure as they want to portray themselves to be. Actually, that's a very central ingredient as to what makes up a narcissistic person. And your task is to learn how to see it so that you don't get caught in that person's spider's web. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to give you a pop quiz. Now, here's the scenario, and I'm going to give you multiple choices as to how you're going to respond to this scenario. The scenario is this. Let's suppose that you've worked on a project and you're finished with it and you're pretty pleased with how it played out, and another person comes along and says, I don't like the way you handled this, and I don't think that your conclusions are very strong. We're going to need to just rethink the whole project that you just finished. How are you going to respond? A, do you complain and say, get off my back? B, do you say, who are you to tell me this? I mean, what do you know about any of this? C, do you look at them and just glare and give them an ugly snarl? D, do you say, why don't we talk about this? What's the secure response? Well, of course, you know it's D. You know, people who complain or who do the reversal is what I call it boomerang communication, or who go into the stonewalling form of communication are implying, oh no, somebody has found something wrong with me. I can't deal with that. And yet, if you truly have a secure position on the inside of yourself, then there's a part of you that says, you know, hearing someone else's perspective, even if it may be coming from a place of negativity, is not devastating to me. It's not my favorite thing, but I've got blind spots. I can learn from other individuals, and there might be something that that person has to contribute to my life. I'm willing to listen. How hard is that? Well, actually, for a lot of people, it's very hard, and especially for that narcissistic individual, it's next to impossible. And so, what I want you to be aware of is there are indicators of security versus insecurity, and we know that the narcissist is going to be coming at you with a lot of their insecurity leading the way, and before you know it, you wind up getting pulled into that very pattern that they're illustrating, and that person can take over your manner of living, and we don't want that to happen. Now, as we look at this a little further, I want to see if we can distinguish between security and insecurity. Secure people like to hear from other individuals. There's an openness that says, I can always learn. Secure people are willing to admit their flaws. In fact, they understand that that's part of their humanity. We're a mixed bag, and they don't mind being open about what that is. Secure people are humble when they have successes. They don't have to go and shout from the mountaintop or make sure that everybody sees that they're something a little extra special. Secure people are emotionally steady. Secure people listen. They like to hear from other individuals. They want to know what other people feel and what they perceive. Secure people can bring out the positives in others. They like passing along compliments. They look for things that are right and good. Secure people are authentic. What you see on the outside is pretty consistent with what they have going on the inside. Secure people also encourage others to be what they are, and they accept folks with pluses and minuses all wrapped up in one. Secure people don't have a real strong need of entitlement. They know how to be content with who they are. Sounds like a pretty good list of characteristics, doesn't it? And my question to you is, do you embody those kinds of characteristics? Now, let's underscore again, the narcissist is going to have a great difficulty operating from that list of ingredients that I just mentioned. They have such a strong need to be special and to feel like they're unique, and that can come from any number of reasons from their own personal background. But there's a sense that says, I have to stay on top. I have to show myself to be better than other individuals, and so their need to be in control and their unwillingness to receive input actually speaks to the fact that there's a fear on the inside of being exposed and just looking like a regular human being, which is actually what they are. They just don't want you to know that. And so, in their discomfort with that whole human dimension, they'll hold themselves up as being somebody that's, beyond all of that, when in fact, beneath the surface, they just can't stand it to think that somebody's going to think anything other than glorious thoughts about who they are. Now, what are some of the common signs of an insecure person? Well, insecure people are known for being very critical. They put others down to elevate themselves. Well, along with that, insecure people may go into name calling and insults toward other individuals. Insecure people refuse to receive input from others. Insecure people tend to have difficulty in managing their anger properly. They can either go into the loud, eruptive form of anger and be very belligerent, or they can just hold on to it in a simmering kind of way as a means of trying to punish someone else. And by the way, anger in and of itself is not an indication of insecurity. Anger happens when people are being inappropriate, and it's your way of saying we can do better. But healthy, secure people can manage their anger in a clean kind of way. Insecure people can't do that. Insecure people have a great difficulty in allowing themselves to be vulnerable. It's like, there is no way I'm going to talk with you about my flaws or my needs or my mistakes. It's always somebody else's fault anyway. Insecure people allow their moods to be way too easily determined by other people. Insecure people have to have the final word. Insecure people are highly defensive. Does that describe anybody that you know or perhaps live with or engage with on a regular basis? Now, here's the rub, and this is what I want you to confront within yourself. Before you know it, when you have that person that's acting in this very insecure kind of way, it can draw out the worst in you. I've had many people come into my counseling office and they'll say, my partner or this person over here that I was working with or whoever was acting in a very disruptive way, and I hate the way that I responded to that person. And before you know it, they went to their place of insecurity. And one of the huge themes that I have in the videos that I'm talking with you about is you need to be the one who establishes your own inner sense of well-being, and you certainly can't afford to allow it to be established by that narcissistic person who has all sorts of manipulative schemes that are a part of the way that they engage. So as you attempt to unhook and live in a much more appropriate way, I'm wanting you to ask 4 primary questions that will keep you away from that person's insecurity and keep you in your place of inner security. Now, the first question is, have you put a lot of thought and contemplation into what it means to be a secure person? Now, I just gave you a list of what those kind of characteristics might be, but see, your task is to take that kind of information and apply it very pragmatically to some of the scenarios that you have. For example, let's suppose that you are around that person who's highly harsh and negative and argumentative. What does a secure person look like in those ways? I mentioned that a secure person can have inner calm, or they can be authentic, or they can listen, or they have an emotional steadiness, things like that. And so have you contemplated very particularly how that security is going to apply in the moment that you find yourself? And a second question is, can you remain in your steady, secure place even when you're being attacked? Now, I find it relatively easy to be secure and to show myself as being a calm and steady person when everybody happens to do what I want them to do. That's kind of easy. The mark of maturity is when I can remain steady and secure even when somebody else is attacking my dignity. And in the moment, what I'm going to need to do is to recognize that attack and that harshness and that condescension that's coming from that other person is much more about that person than it is about me. The way that we conduct ourselves with one another is an open commentary about how we believe about ourselves. A third question is, do I understand the difference between shame and guilt? You see, one of the things that the narcissist wants to do is to shame you for being you. And so they'll talk with you about how you have no worth and you are a sore spot in their life. Now, shame gets into your dignity and your worth and your character, and the narcissist loves to pull that out. Now, sometimes you can be aware of the fact that, well, in fact, you do things wrong and you have made mistakes. And so when that narcissist brings the shame upon you, you might just say, well, I guess I have to camp out there because I do have mistakes in my life. Well, there are times when you feel guilty, and I'm hoping that you can look at the guilt and say, you know, I am a mistake maker. And I am someone who needs some guidance and direction from other individuals at times. But once that I've finished looking at myself and making my adjustments, my guilt is finished. And I don't have to just camp out in it. Whereas when shame is brought upon you, you're being invited to go to your place of unworthiness and stay there, as far as the narcissist is concerned, in a long, extended kind of way. Sometimes you have guilt, but once the guilt leads you to restoration, then it's finished. And so do you understand the difference between shame and guilt? And then finally, fourth question, do you filter your sense of security through other people's opinions? I'm hoping that there's a much bigger way of reasoning that you operate with. You've pulled back and you realize that worth, value, dignity are not things that are subject to public opinion polls. Now, the narcissist wants to keep you in an undignified kind of place. They want to keep you in an unworthy kind of place. But do you have a belief and an understanding that you have worth just primarily because of your existence? And that's something that was given to you on the day of your birth, and it continues to be on the inside of you, whether the narcissist agrees with it or not. And have you thought that through? Now, as we close here today, I'm wanting you to focus on one really large word, and that's the word objectivity. The narcissist, in their insecurity, wants to bring you subjectively into their messed up way of thinking. And when I say subjectively, they want to get you on an emotional and a visceral kind of level. The objective person says, let me slow down and weigh the facts carefully. Let me use some logic and reason. And when I find that that person is off base, I'm not going to go into their dance with them. So stay objective, know who you are, understand what security looks like. And when the narcissist comes at you with their insecurity, you can simply see it for what it is. Now, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to glean some good information from these videos. And beneath the video here, I have some links for you for some books that you might find to be helpful. And we'd also invite you to subscribe to our channel so that as more videos come along, then we'll keep you apprised of that. Thanks for being here with us. We really like having you in our community.